And all these women walked in together when they heard the shots, and they found him, and they immediately started collecting his blood and put it into jars. They knew this man died for them, for the faith, for God. They knew he was a martyr from the beginning.
Welcome to Matters of Soul Importance, where we dive deeply into topics of both earthly and eternal consequence. I'm Roxanne Solonen, faith columnist and features writer for the Forum, author, and speaker. My guest today, Maria Ruiz Scaperlanda, is a wife, mother, grandmother, and writer who was born in Cuba, raised in Puerto Rico, and has lived in Oklahoma for the past 30 years. Also an accomplished writer, she's the author of several books, including, most notable for our conversation today, the award-winning The Shepherd Who Didn't Run, Blessed Stanley Rother, Martyr from Oklahoma. Very recently, Maria was named promoter of the cause for Blessed Stanley Rother, an exciting development that happened rather unexpectedly. And speaking of surprise happenings, if you'd asked her even a couple years ago if she could imagine meeting actor Martin Sheen at his house in Malibu, she would have laughed you out the door. But that is exactly what Maria did recently. It was in that studio where Martin recorded the voice-over narration of a new full-length documentary on Blessed Rother, and Maria has the pictures to prove it. Today we'll ask, what treasure did Stanley Rother, the first U.S.-born priest to be beatified and our first American martyr, leave his beloved Guatemalans? And in the course of Maria's answer, we'll learn a bit about why martyrs are such an important part of church history and what makes Blessed Stanley Rother, the first U.S.-born priest martyr, so special to her. Blessings await in this conversation, so let's hear what Maria has to say. Welcome, Maria, my friend. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing great. It's a bright, sunny day in Oklahoma.
Oh, awesome. It was earlier, and now we've got a little clouds here, but I think the sun's going to come back. And it's supposed to be really warm today on a spring day. So it's not spring, but it feels like it's right now. But so I'm excited for today's conversation. We're going to ask the very long question, what treasure did Stanley Rother, the first U.S.-born priest to be beatified and the first American martyr, leave his beloved Guatemalans? Like I said, that's a mouthful, and I didn't almost get it all out. But we're gonna attempt that today. We're gonna attempt to answer that question. So, I know we talked about this quite a while ago. I was in your neck of the woods in August, and asked if maybe you would be on Matters of Soul Importance. So here we are today. And even since then, just very recently, some developments have happened that have me on the edge of my seat, because I don't know all of the details, how it unfolded, but it has something to do with a new documentary that's coming out in a few months that led you to go to Martin Sheen's home in Malibu recently, and also, even more importantly, your journey with a potential saint. So we're going to cover both of those things. But first, I want to hear about you, Maria. Introduce yourself to our guests and let us know a little bit about now. Unlike Blessed Stanley Rother, you were not born in the United States. So where do you come from? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Yes, no, that's right. I didn't. I was born in Cuba, left as a refugee with my family in the early 60s, and we settled in Puerto Rico and lived there for a long time. So I'm a Caribbean girl, an island girl, and even though that's true, I have lived in Oklahoma, which is very landlocked, for almost 30 years now. Really, I'm a mom and a grandmother, or abuela, as we say in Spanish, and that kind of leads most of my life. On the side, I am an author and writer, and I've always worked in the Catholic press, and I've been so blessed to get to know about many things in the church and try to make them accessible, I guess, with my writing to my readers.
Right there's just so much, and I wanna ask one question that I don't know, which is, how old were you when you came over to Puerto Rico? Like, what age were you?
I was a toddler,
Okay.
1.5, I think, 2, turning
So
2.
you don't remember Cuba very much. Have you
No,
been
but
back there at all?
yes, I did. I was
Okay.
going to say Cuba has hosted our last 3 popes. I don't know how many places can say that that's true, especially for a country that still claims to be communist. That's crazy. But when the first Pope, John Paul II, went, I was asked to go on assignment for our Sunday visitor. And I spent about 10 days there. After the Pope left, I was able to go see the place because I'm not from Havana. I'm from the west end of Cuba. Was born in Pinar del Rio. So I got to go there and see the place, the houses where my parents lived, where I was born. It was really holy experience to think that my parents could have stayed there all their life, and this event and this person that took over my island made it so that I'm here in Oklahoma. You never know.
Wow, there's just so much there, and you grew up in this faithful Catholic home, I assume. With
Yes.
how many siblings did you have?
I just have one brother who's
Okay.
15 months older than I am. So the
Okay.
two of us, I love to say when I was young, I used to say that we were twins because we were so close that even physically we were kind of neck to neck. Yes, a faithful Catholic home in the sense of wanting the church to be, and Jesus to be the main thing that rules our life, that leads our life, and where our heart is. I also had the great privilege of having extra moms living with me because, like it is with many refugee families, we had grandparents living with us. So I had at one point 2 grandmothers and my mom and dad, and then my brother and I. So I'm kind of at the low end, the bottom of the hierarchy. But I had these wonderful women, really, and especially the women, to show me the way.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. What were some of the aspects of Catholicism in Puerto Rico that you remember? Like, were there certain customs or different things that were different than how you worship now in Oklahoma?
That's an interesting question. When you talk about Catholic things, we have the gift of having a universal church. So really, like going to Mass in Spanish is like going to Mass in English. I know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And I can kind of follow. I think for me, in Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean, there's so much about your culture that is intricately connected to your faith. The things that you do for fun or to celebrate, it's always connected to your church. For example, my mom just had a birthday. She turned 95 last week, which is such a blessing. We still have her with us, and her phrase is de la misa a la mesa. We go from church to celebrate at home with a meal. And so everything is colored by our Catholicism and vice versa. The culture and the faith just connect together.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. And then at some point, you found your way to Oklahoma. So there was a journey there. How did that happen? Because I don't know that story. I know your husband, but I don't know the story of how you met.
I'm so glad you were here last year. That just changes everything.
Yes, I know.
You're going to have to come back and bring more people with you.
I loved our breakfast at the Guatemalan restaurant.
Right?
That was so
Yes,
fun.
me too.
Yes.
So once we left Puerto Rico, I was a teenager, and we entered the United States, the main United States, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I spent 5 years. And then my family moved to Austin, Texas, and I started school at the University of Texas. And that's where I met my husband, Michael. And I guess the phrase that you say in English is college sweethearts. So that's what we were. We met at the Catholic Student Center in Austin at the University of Texas. And he and I were active there doing what we could to bring Jesus to the campus, but also just worshiping together. And you know how that goes. I fell in love. We decided to marry right after we both graduated, and kids came close after that. And my husband is a lawyer, and he practiced law and knew that that wasn't his calling. So he started looking at where to teach law, and that's how we ended up in Norman, Oklahoma. He was taught at the law school there for, oh my goodness, probably 35 years or so.
Wow. And just jumping ahead, and then we'll jump back. You have 15 grandchildren, which kind of speaks. I mean, those are the flowers, right, of your marriage.
Absolutely. My mom always says that then was for this, meaning that all they went through and all their hardships were so that I could be here and practice my faith and pass it on to my kids and grandkids. And I think that's a beautiful way to phrase it, you know.
I love that. Yeah, that then was for this now. I think that's what you said. Oh, the perspective that we can only have later, right? We don't.
Oh, absolutely. How many
have that
things
little
does that
dream.
happen?
Yeah, like we have the dream, and then when we realize we're inside the dream, like it's happening right now. It's
that's
beautiful.
exactly right. Yeah.
It's
and
so
God's,
hopeful too. Yeah.
Yes, I agree, Roxanne. And I think God's dreams are always so much bigger than my dreams. You know, the way that He puts things together with a great sense of humor attached. I would have never thought of being in Oklahoma, but it has been a beautiful place to raise my kids. And now, what's funny to me is we're not from Oklahoma, either of us. He's the Texan and I'm the Cuban. And yet, when our kids went away to college, I thought, okay, we'll be traveling, visiting them wherever they go. And then once they got married and started having their own kids, they moved back here. And they live near each other, and I have everyone within 3 miles of Michael and I. I would have never, ever dreamt that either. That's really, really special to me.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to go and stay in your house and experience that. And I remember I woke up the next morning and your grandkids were outside in the pool, and and your house is so eclectic and lovely, and there's signs of faith everywhere. I want to go back just to have coffee with you
tell
again.
Me when, girl.
Okay. So just to give an idea, yes, Maria is the consummate mother, which obviously you had great role models from from your past.
I did. That's why I wanted to make sure I named my grandmothers there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, one of the things I did want to bring up, because while we were there shopping for sunglasses, I needed sunglasses. And, there's a funny story there. Ultimately, I ended up getting them at a gas station. But on the way, you were taking me back to my hotel, and we stopped and paused at this monument downtown in Oklahoma City, and it connected with one of something that you did some years ago. Can you share about the book that you wrote that connects to the monument? Yeah.
So I think it's getting on in time now that the younger people may not remember or would not remember, but there, in Oklahoma, it's still very vivid. The Murrah building bombing that took place here in 1995. And two things about that. Being in Oklahoma when that happened, my experience was of what a small town way of living Oklahoma has, in the sense that everybody was, whether they were affected directly or not, everybody was into this and trying to help the victims, the families that were in so much pain and suffering, and to walk this huge event together. And I had never seen that. It was really beautiful. Our Archbishop here at the time, Archbishop Beltran, he wanted something that brought hope to the situation at that moment. And his idea was, what if we do a book about three young Catholics who had already lived a life that was holy and models for the rest of us, but who died unexpectedly that day at the Murrah building. And I loved his vision for that. And it was really kind of funny because we were still young and had not been in Oklahoma for very long. And I got a phone call from his secretary, and she said, this is my name and blah, blah, blah. And then she said, well, Maria, Archbishop Beltran would like to see you. And so we made an appointment. And I got off the phone and I called my husband and I said, I feel like I'm being called to the principal's office.
Yeah, for sure.
Why does he want to see me? What did I write recently? Is there anything I should be worried about? But what he wanted was to ask me if I would be willing to write this book that he had in mind, the three people. And it was really beautiful. That became actually my very first book. And I got to know the families very well. And I don't know, it was a great experience for his first book.
We should probably briefly explain. A lot of us know it as the Oklahoma City bombing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you want to explain a little bit what happened for those who haven't heard of it, it definitely was something seared into my memory. So I am old enough to remember. But
Yeah.
what for the younger ones, can you just briefly describe what happened that day?
So it was at the time the most I don't know what the actual term is, but at the time it was named the worst act of terrorism by anyone on U.S. soil. Of course, this is before the towers in New York. So at the time, it was a big deal. It was, and it's still a big deal. I mean, I love that they took their time trying to figure out what that area was going to look like. You know, you have a bombed out place, and what had happened was a guy came and parked his truck in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, and it had a bomb in the back of the truck and exploded, and it killed many people and affected really hundreds more. The families got together and talked about what can we do with that area. There's something that we do that is just innate to us. You know, we go see something like that, and it really is like standing on holy ground. So many acts of bravery and so much suffering, but also signs of hope. People talked about, it must have been an angel that let me out. I couldn't see anything, and then I was out. And, you know, those are things for all of us to think about, because God is so active in all these things when we are at our worst. So what do you do? What kind of memorial would you do? And they made it so beautiful and so simple. It has like two walls, one on each side of the street where it happened, the event happened, and one has the time a minute before it happened, and the other one the minute after it happened. And then in the middle is just chairs that light up at night to signify the 168 people who died. And you just walk through it, and nobody has to tell you to be quiet. Everybody is naturally quiet because it's such a holy place. And I think it's beautiful. The simplicity of it, it has it reminds me of the things you would see in Washington, D.C. It's just very well done.
There was a Jesus, right, that we saw that was kind of looking down.
Right across the street from this bombing site is the first cathedral for Oklahoma City. From the land run times. It's been around forever. We call it Old St. Joseph's here. Everything blew up in the church when the bombing happened, except for the light by Jesus. I mean, the red light was still there. And that was very significant to anyone who walked around trying to find survivors, etc. Well, when the church wanted to add something to commemorate and remember, the image that was brought in was from that shortest sentence in the scripture that says, "And Jesus wept." And it's an image of Jesus with his hand on his face, just looking down. And then behind him, there's like sconces where you can put candles or lights for symbolizing each of the people who died. And it's very powerful. It almost feels like it was part of the design of the Oklahoma City bombing memorial, but it's not. It was done by the archdiocese years later, and fits right in.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And one of the things I remember that always strikes the heart is there was a daycare, I think, right, for some of the employees that was yes. in the building too. And so children died. That's always, I mean, anyone obviously, but as a young person hearing that was hard. And
that was so tragic. And yes.
Yeah. So you got to chat. So what do you think, kind of going back, why did they call you, do you think, Maria?
Archbishop Beltran just said, well, I've seen your writing and I liked it. And then he says to me, so have you done any books? And I said, nope, not yet. And he said, yet, that is the right answer.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of brings me back to how I met you, which is I was a young mom and I subscribed to a magazine called Catholic Parent, and you were a columnist in there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Roxanne.
that's how that is the initial seed, because I loved your column and I reached out because I was learning from you. You were a mentor of mine as a mom. And then you invited me onto this Catholic Writers Listserv, and then it went on from there. But that was it initially. So you were kind of famous in my mind. Like so you had proven yourself by then, really, though. You were out there writing. And one of the thoughts, actually, as I was thinking this morning, that I'm impressed by, even though I took a little bit of Spanish and I'm always trying to practice that a little bit, you were bilingual and a writer. Like that impresses me, because it's one thing to have a command of words of your native language, right? But then to translate that, to be able to communicate that so as well as you have, like that, just it's a whole other level. That's just
well,
is
thank
remarkable.
you. Yeah. Thank you. It's one of the gifts, I guess, of my growing up.
There must have been some communicators in that family.
Yes.
Yeah. And communication is important. So, especially, when we're trying to explain God and explain our faith, and God communicated to us through his word, right? And
Yes.
so there's so much there. It's so beautiful. So that was formidable. And then, and now we're going to skip forward because now something else is happening and we have so much to talk about. When I was in Oklahoma City, one of the first places you took me was to the shrine.
Yes.
That is really pretty new. So tell me about that, and it relates to Stanley Rother, who we're going to hear a lot about now. So share about that shrine and its significance, and let's just start talking about Father Rother as well.
So since we're going fast forward, I will mention first that Father Stanley Rother was a diocesan priest from Oklahoma City, born in a little farming town called Okarche. He was murdered in Guatemala in the years where there was so much violence in Central America. And it wasn't just in Guatemala, it was everywhere. In fact, he was martyred just 1 year after Archbishop Romero. So that kind of gives you an idea of the significance of it all. Father Stan was not a bishop or anything like that. He was a faithful shepherd who was the pastor for the Zutu Hill Mayan Indians in Santiago Atitlan, Guatemala. I first heard about Father Stan from my kids, to be honest, because they went to Catholic school here, and they would come home and talk about this priest mom who died in Guatemala, but he's from Oklahoma. And I had never heard of him before that. Mm-hmm. And I loved that I got to, it's your journalist brain. You know how that goes. So you want to find out more. And we don't have internet at this point, right?
Right, yeah.
So I had to do a little digging and all of that. But I did a few stories on him for the Catholic publications at the time. And when Archbishop Beltran, before he retired, he wanted to open the cause and make the cause of Father Stan, meaning beginning to put him out as a possible saint for the Catholic Church. And he said to the folks that he asked to work on this, I want to do this, send it to Rome before I retire. So everybody worked really hard, and I was part of the historical commission, simply helping with the Spanish, actually. It was sent to Rome right before Archbishop Beltran retired. When the new Archbishop came in, we were both on a pilgrimage to Santiago Atitlan and to the place where Father Stan lived and died. You have to cross this giant lake called Lake Atitlan, and he and I are looking out over the lake at the beauty of it's magnificent, really, and beauty. The geography of that place is something else. And I'm getting to know this new archbishop, and he looks at me and he says, well, since you worked on the cause a bit, we need a biography of him, like something that people can read and find out who is this guy, so that his cult would keep growing. And that was the first time we thought about this, and the first time that we talked in general about a book. He commissioned me to write this biography, and I put it out, and we got it right around the time where the cause was progressing, in the sense that the commission was voting on him becoming a martyr. So the book came out all at the same time that this was happening. he was beatified in 2017, and I think the copyright for the book is like 2016 or something like that. So it was just a beautiful experience to be able to just make a story. It's my privilege, honestly, to make this story available to people so they can hear about this wonderful new saint, a person we can relate to.
Yeah, and the title of your book is provocative and leads us into who he was. So, the shepherd who didn't run. Explain what that means, Maria.
We have lots of letters that Father Stan wrote, mostly to family, but also friends. And he would also write to the church. At the time, Oklahoma's, the diocese, when he went, was all of the state of Oklahoma. And then it got divided into two, and into Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And that's how many we have now. And Father Stan would write letters, especially at Christmas time, where he would talk about the situation in Oklahoma so that people would know what was going on, because we still had this mission down there. In one of the letters, Father Stan says, "The shepherd cannot run at the first sign of danger." And it's just a very powerful statement to make, saying he was willing to be with them. And it reminds me of Pope Francis's comment about as priests, we have to smell like the sheep that we shepherd. And that was Father Stan. He totally smelled like the sheep. He was one of them.
Yes. And one of us too. One of the things that struck me as being from an agricultural community is he was from an agricultural community. How did he end up over there in Guatemala?
Well, we had a mission, and after 5 years of being a priest, he was asked if he was interested, and he volunteered to go to this mission. He didn't know what he was getting into. I mean, this guy had never traveled anywhere, and here he was heading to a whole new world with new language and all. What makes it extra amazing is that he really struggled in the seminary because of Latin. He even flunked the first year of theology and was sent home with a note that said, "You need to consider another vocation." But the bishop at the time believed in him, and when Father Stan said, "What do you want?" No, the bishop asked him, "What do you want me to do?" And Father Stan said, "If you could find me another seminary, I really want to be a priest." So he did. Father Stan went to Mount St. Mary's in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and did very well. This same guy that struggled with learning Latin goes down there, learns Spanish. Speaking of being bilingual, Roxanne, he learned Spanish very well, but he actually became completely immersed in Zutu Hill, which is a language like no other. I call that his first miracle.
Yeah, totally. It's like an ancient, right? It's and it's not common.
No,
in the
it's
world.
only spoken in 2 villages around that lake.
That's
Isn't
amazing.
that crazy?
That's amazing. And it tells you how much he loved them, that he wanted that. And then God must have poured on lots of graces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God bless his desire to be with the people. No, it's remarkable and not at the same time. It's like, duh.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that he comes from Okarche, Oklahoma, which is a very small town where it's all about family, faith, church. farming. And everything revolves around that. And he goes to Santiago Atitlan, and guess what? Everything revolves around family, faith, farming. So he could go and work the fields with them, but also speaking their language. It's really no wonder they called him our priest.
Yes, he became very beloved. I want to ask so much more about him. I know a little bit about him. I read your book. I endorsed your book. But we're going to take a tiny break here. And then on the other side of it, we're going to dive headlong into more of Father Stanley's life and what he means to you as well, Maria. So we will be right back with more Maria Ruiz Scaperlanda and Matters of Soul Importance after this break.
Get 6 months of local news for just $2. You get unlimited access to the news and information you need to stay connected to your community. Visit inforum.com/subscribe to get 6 months of local news for just $2.
Welcome back to Matters of Soul Importance. We are asking the question today, what treasure did Stanley Rother, the first U.S.-born priest and martyr, leave his beloved Guatemalans? There's so much more to say about him, and I want to dive right back in. So, Maria, where do we leave off, and what more do you want to tell us about Father Rother?
Well, I love to point out that Father Rother was a very, he was ordinary. That's the word that I would use. What he really was a parish priest who loved being a priest and who loved the people that he served. And I think he can be a model for all of us. He's from the middle of the country where so many of us are surrounded by farm fields and all that. And to see that God used all the details of what made him an Oklahoman over here to put to work in Santiago Atitlan so that he could connect with the people there. It's really no wonder how much they identified with him. So he was very generous in all the things that he did, and they knew that he could fix anything, for example, with his hands. His brother used to say that all the time. There was nothing that he couldn't fix if it broke out in the farm. He was also knowledgeable about how to farm and what to do to the land to get more crops and all of that. And all of that was used there. I mean, God doesn't waste any of these details.
No.
He just was centered on God first and hard work and service to others. And the fact that he was so connected to his people, because he was being completely himself, to me is one of the ways that I fell in love with him, because truly what he's showing me is that the details of my own life, no matter how mundane, quotidian, and ordinary they are, those are the details that are my path to holiness. And I don't have to look around and wonder what else I need to add. It's all there already. It's how I live my life that matters. And that was modeled by everything he did.
Yeah, I think one thing that's sticking out right now is when we find our purpose, and I have 5 young adult kids right now, and they're in varying stages of finding their purpose. And it's like, when you find it like he did, and he's put in this whole other world, but then he found it. And then everything just came together and love just like came out, and they felt that. But it was a dangerous place too, Maria. And so tell us about that, what he went through. And the shepherd who didn't run, like there were temptations or maybe some different, factors of pulling him back, like into
Yeah.
safety. Share about that volatile time and what that meant for him.
Yes. It was a dangerous time. He was there for 13 years. At the beginning, it was just the usual mission kind of environment. I think it was really towards the end of his time there. He died in 1981, in July of 1981, and his letters would reflect what was going on in Guatemala and the violence that was kind of began in the capital city and was spreading through their whole country. It took a while to get to Santiago Atitlan because it is a very remote place, and you have to want to be there to make it there. It's not like on the way to anything. It's up on a mountain nestled between two volcanoes. Once it made it to Santiago, there was so much hostility, and the army was in town, and then the people who were fighting the army would come down. But the people that got caught in the middle, those were Father Stan's people. So you can imagine it's kind of like a movie, when you think about that time period. There is so much going on. But Father Stan's focus never wavered. I mean, he was totally for the people, with the people. That's how he showed his love for God and for his people, was to be with them. His gift of presence, I think, was very evident in all that he did.
Why was that tension there? Like, why was the church targeted, do you think?
I think it had to do with the fact that if you were friends of the poor people or stood up for the poor people like the church was doing, certainly like Father Stan was doing, then you were targeted as being a violent terrorist or whatever by the army. And we, to this day, don't know who killed him, but we know that it was done because he was defending his people. He even translating the New Testament to Zutuhil so that the people could hear in the readings of the day, could hear God's love for them in their own language. He didn't translate it himself with his hands. What he did was, it was a project that he inherited from the previous pastor, and he made sure that it got done. Well, that was very subversive to have something written in Zutuhil. So here's this guy hiding this New Testament on the walls of buildings, and I think at one point even dug a hole and put it all in there because he didn't want that to be lost. Everybody wants to hear their own language, and he knew how important that was for them to know that God was with them.
And God saw them, and through his presence, they were seen by God.
Yes.
In this remote place, in this faraway country that growing up in Oklahoma, he never would have even imagined or even had any
No, exactly. Yeah. No, he was what I have a friend that used to call this God in the skin, and he was truly God in the skin for them. They knew they could come and ask him anything.
And we're incarnational, so we need the skin. We need the person. Like, God works through people.
That is correct. Yeah, no, that I totally agree with that. For example, in the evenings, he would just sit and listen to music when he didn't have to go somewhere. So he would wind up the day by listening to music, smoking his pipe. But then people started coming. So they would line up and they would come to him with whatever it was they needed. Whether it was a ride to going to the hospital nearby, which he was supposed to do the day that he was killed, or bringing the man who shows up with a baby in his hand and he says, "Father, my wife just gave birth to twins, but we cannot do twins. We can't do two." And he said, "Okay, just give her to me." And Father Stan that night was like the daddy of this baby, changing and feeding the baby. And he found a couple to take little baby Maria.
Oh, it's Maria.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, his love just poured out, and his compassion, the fact that he was co-passionate for them. It was very, very real, tangible, like you say, reincarnational. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a time before his death that he came home, right, for Easter?
Yes.
What was it? Yeah.
So people would disappear, and they didn't ever appear again. I mean, they were taken without any warning and left for dead on the side of the road. And that was the weirdest hardship that he had ever faced. But he said, until, if my life is in danger, yes, I would consider going. Well, what happened was he did not want to leave, even after being put on a blacklist of people that they were going to kill. But when his associate pastor was on the list, he did leave to bring him to Oklahoma. And for a couple of months here, Father Stan pondered and prayed and visited with the two bishops from Tulsa and Oklahoma City about going back. And he knew what it meant to go back. And he knew that he had to know that he would be attacked and probably killed. So I call that period his Gethsemane, because he literally got on his knees and prayed, "What can I do?" And his answer was, "I promised my people that I would be back for Holy Week." And so he did.
And then he celebrated, he reconnected, and then it wasn't much longer before he was killed, right?
Yes, it was in the middle of the night, and they came for him, and he had told his dad, "If they come for me, I won't let them take me," because he didn't want people to wonder, where is their pastor, where is their priest. They called him Aplas, which is the Zutu Hill for his middle name, Francis. Stanley didn't have a translation to yeah, so they went with Father Stanley Francis Rother, and they went with the Francis.
Okay.
So that he didn't want them wondering where he was, and so that night he fought them in the room and was shot twice in the head, and he died instantly.
Wow. And as preparations were made, there was a request from the Guatemalan people.
Yes.
And that's kind of the heart of the question today. So that I waited to now to reveal.
Yes.
So share about that.
You
Yeah.
know, from the moment he was martyred, when this was in the rectory, and is a small room in the corner of this patio, and across the patio were sisters and one of his friends who was there volunteering, and all these women walked in together when they heard the shots, and they found him, and they immediately started collecting his blood and put it into jars. They knew this man died for them, for the faith, for God. They knew he was a martyr from the beginning. And that's just beyond comprehension, really, from my mind. But it was a God thing because they immediately protected all of those things. He had said, if they kill me, light the Easter candle and sing Easter songs. And that's what they did for him. They collected all his things and they lit the candle. And he had like 2-3 masses in Santiago before they let his body go, because they really wanted him to be buried there. Mm-hmm. So when it was clear that he was not going to be buried there, they asked his parents if they could keep his heart there. And that's exactly what happened. The parents said yes. And I can't imagine, I mean, you and I have talked about this, I can't imagine making that kind of decision. Mm-hmm. And yet they knew he had already given his heart to them. You know, his heart symbolically and literally stayed there with them. So his heart was on the altar on another jar, as they did his funeral mass, and then they were buried on a side altar in the back of the church. I don't know. There's no better explanation than just saying he had already given his heart.
Yeah.
And the parents knew this.
To step away and look at this through like some of my Protestant friends' eyes, however, it might seem so weird. And you know, we do a lot of weird things as Catholics. But I mean, certainly symbolically, we can all understand that. But why did you have to actually, you know, remove his heart and give it to the people? I think I'll hear your answer. That's why I mentioned the incarnation. You know, that's why we do these things. It's love. It's wanting to be close to those who loved us.
Yes, and they did not want to let him go. They didn't. You know, he truly was one of them, and they did not want to let him go. So it was a really powerful thing that his parents would even agree to that. And it wasn't anything they had talked about before. It was in the moment and realizing what this would mean for the people. And honestly, they all have, whether his cause continues and becomes a saint or not, which I think he will for the Universal Church, they've been asking him to intercede for them, period. They have never stopped coming to him and asking for favors, like they did when he was listening to music and smoking his pipe.
Yes.
You know, they've never stopped. For them, it was a total natural thing. And it's really very funny because his name is everywhere if you go there, and there's 1 million children named after him.
That's cute. Well, he's special to them, and he's also still very special to Oklahoma. And so I know you've taken part in a couple of different things. There's a cathedral there that has his imprint, and I know you have been part of that, and also the shrine. So maybe share a little bit about, because if any listener is in the area of Oklahoma City and you want to get to know him a little bit better, that's
Yes,
definitely a good place to go.
come to the shrine. It is right on I-35, exit 120. You cannot miss it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful church where you can really feel his presence there. It's that's where his body now lies, in the small chapel behind the main altar. And it is worth the drive. Come and visit. There's a small museum and people who have been trained to answer any questions that people may have. So truly, come and visit, and you also will touch a little piece of God through this band while you're there. I guarantee you.
Yes, yeah, and it's pretty new, right? Just
It's
not that old.
I think it was commissioned just 2 years ago. Not commissioned. What's the word? Dedicated.
Okay. Yep. But really, really new and just
Yes,
gorgeous.
and if you go to the shrine on any given Sunday, no, not a feast day, just any given Sunday, the Spanish masses are overflowing with people. And it is the largest church, Catholic church, in Oklahoma. It seats over 2,000 people. But every Mass is Spanish is like that on any weekend. And I think that makes it even a more special place, because it's not just a building that you go see. It's a living entity where people feel at home. And I think that fits Father Stan so well.
Yes. One more thing before I got to ask you about Martin Sheen and hanging out with him. But before we get there, one more thing, the cathedral, because I got to worship with you at the cathedral, and there was a beautiful mural, and you had a story that I think related to Father Rother as that was being erected, right?
I'm not sure I know which.
It was the story where you were. Was his body there for a bit?
Oh, yes. So the week that his body was moved. Okay, so there was 1 week that led to prior to the dedication of the shrine, where there was something special every day of the week, preparing us for this big event. And the first event was his body was put, the casket, right at the cathedral, and open overnight for veneration. And I thought I was being clever by going in the middle of the night, because I'm a Latina and a night owl. So I show up, and there's a line wrapped around the cathedral. People were coming all night long to come and kneel by his casket and talk to him. He was so powerful, Roxanne. He was just beautiful. I'd never experienced that before, not in this way. Our local priests, people who were not Catholic, it's like everybody showed up, because holiness attracts all of us. It's like when you are around a person that exudes holiness, you want it. You want more of it. And I think even there, that was the case. So many things that we're doing are simply meant to get people to know him who are outside Oklahoma. He's already been declared a saint in the sense of a local saint by being beatified. But we want him to be known so that he can become a saint for the universal church. So there's a documentary that was shown at the beatification, and it's on a loop at the shrine that you can watch, and it's called An Ordinary Martyr. This something about the life and story of Father Stanley Rother. You can find it on YouTube or on the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City website. But a new project has been a full-length documentary, because that one is very short. It's like 17 minutes, give you an idea of who he was and where he was. A full-length documentary, like an actual movie, that can be shown in theaters, and that's the plan. And it's been worked on right now. And among the many things I never thought I'd be doing in my life is flying to Malibu so that I could help Martin Sheen in being the narrator for this documentary. Martin Sheen is a Catholic, and he fell in love with Father Stan after he read my book. And that was humbling.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and to be there in his home and have us just sitting like I knew him forever. And then the next day, Michael and I got to go to Mass with him and his wife to Our Lady of Malibu. I mean, these are things that God comes up with that I would have never in a million years done it. And that's what I mean. His dreams are always so much bigger. But it is clear to me without any doubt that he wants people to know about Blessed Stanley Rother. So that's why I have agreed to continue working on the cause by being the promoter, which just means that we need a miracle, and I'm going to be collecting information of all the miracles to see which one we're going to send to Rome.
That's so cool. I just have a question about the Martin Sheen connection. How did that
ask me anything?
How did that invitation happen? Like, did you get an email, phone call? Did Martin call you up? Was there? What was it?
Well, he does call my husband, but so here's the thing is, I was looking for ways that we could make a movie, like not a documentary, but a movie. And I asked my friend, Sister Rose Pacati, to tell me her opinion. Do you think this is worth it? And she definitely agreed. And she said, well, you know, one thing you can do is contact people in Hollywood that you would think are open to this kind of thing. And she had written a book, a biography on Martin Sheen. And she kind of introduced us to him. And so we sent Martin Sheen a script for a movie, which he did not like, and my book. And he loved the book. And so he said to us, what you need to do right now is a documentary. Do a documentary before you do anything else. And that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And that's when he said, I will donate being the narrator as my contribution to this.
Wow. How generous. And that's going to be coming out. Will it be in all theaters or some theaters?
It's like they're working with Carmel Communications, who really know what they're doing. And they wanted to, the idea is to put it out in the theaters, for 2 or 3 days, like some of those kind of movies. And then to have it available on streaming online. There's so many possibilities there, from Amazon Video, Netflix, whatever. I don't know exactly which one, but there's many versions of that. So,
and it's July 28th.
July 28th is his feast day. That's the day that he died.
Okay.
And the hope and the plan is that it will be around those days.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching.
I'll let you know. Don't worry. I will let you know.
Oh, for sure. Yes, I want to see it. It just strikes me earlier as we were talking that you really are the right person, Maria. I'm even thinking of where you came from and where you ended up. And then like Father Stanley Rother started in Oklahoma and ended up in, South America. So I can see like the confluences of your lives
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So it just,
God's sense of humor, Roxanne.
because you're just a mom and a grandma, and but yet God has called you into this space of trying to make the case for someone, being held up as a saint, as a canonized saint, and that's the journey you're on now. What a unexpected turn of events!
No kidding.
And you have a wonderful family who can be your confidants as you go along and process through this too. So
yes,
yeah. Is there anything else? I mean, we know the answer now is that what treasure did he leave his beloved Guatemalans? It was after his death, and what he left them was his heart. But of course, he had already left them his heart before, and so I'm sure he was absolutely for that. What else, before we go, Maria, that do you want us to know about anything that we've talked about today, but especially this beloved priest and how he has worked his way into your life and affected your life? I'd like to hear just anything personally that he's where you just realize this is a friend. This is more than yeah.
So I have several books, and if you can spell Scaperlanda, you can go online and find them on Amazon. But this one is not just a book. I mean, for me, this one has become it's become something very personal and very intimate, in the sense that he is my main saint in my posse of saints that I, turn to for prayers, because he is so much a part of this world that we live in. That, he's not from a faraway country and at a time in history that he's from here and now. The fact that there's people everywhere here who know him and knew him, it's just very powerful to think of that. We all know holy people, and we all have people, we even say things like, oh, she's just a saint. There really are saints walking among us, and I think, I believe that God sends us the people we need at the time and place that we need them. And that's Father Stan. He can be for priests because he was a parish priest. He can be for seminarians because he struggled, but kept his eye on God. He could be a farmer and a simple man who liked to fix things. He could, all the things that he was point me towards what I can be. And I do. I look to him for pretty much anything.
Well, it seems we have the perfect Pope right now to be the one.
I never thought we'd see that in our lifetime, but here we are.
I mean, Pope Leo brings those two worlds, North America, South America, together as well. So it seems like if anyone is ready to receive him as a saint, he would be the one. The time is now. So, Maria,
amen, sister. Yeah,
yes, you have your work cut out for you. But I'm so excited, and I can't wait to hear how this progresses.
Pray for me, and also I encourage all your listeners, pray, asking for Father Stan's intercession. If you have anything, we need a miracle, and I know it's happening already. So ask him to go bat for you, and then let us know what happened.
Is there a place where people can write in? Okay.
So we're working on that right now, but already at the shrine, you get the website for the Blessed Stanley Rother Shrine.
Okay.
There's a place where you can put favors received. The Archdiocese is working to add one, and we are going to make sure that a sainthood website will have it also.
Okay. All right. I'm going to include some of these things in the show notes for people. So, including that short documentary that you mentioned as we anticipate the bigger one. But we'll say hi to Martin Sheen for us the next time you're hanging out with him. And,
well, when he gets done, we probably will see him again. Yeah.
Yes. And it was just such a joy to have such a personal introduction to this beautiful soul, Maria. And I've heard about him through
this.
you. Yes.
No, it's delightful. And I love getting to do it with you.
Yeah, it's been a joy. So you have a wonderful day. Say hi to your family, and we'll talk soon.
Blessed Stanley Rother, pray for us.
Indeed, yes.
What treasure did Stanley Rother, the first U.S.-born priest to be beatified and our first American martyr, leave his beloved Guatemalans? Well, the mystery has been revealed. That treasure was his very heart. I can't help but think of the song, but amended for Father Rother's story. He left his heart in Santiago, and not just symbolically, as in the popular 1962 song made famous by Tony Bennett. I think also of the phrase by Tertullian, "The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church." For it is in those moments of martyrdom that we can most fully reflect on Christ's own suffering and dying for us. The sacrifices and deaths of martyrs for their faith inspire and strengthen the growth of the Christian church, leading, like nothing else, to a proliferation of Christianity. In this, we see how death is conquered by life, how God wins even through loss, and we don't have to be a red martyr to enter into this reality. As for the weirdness of the collection of Father Rother's blood immediately after his death by those who loved him and wanting to keep his heart, truthfully, I find it so very human. When we love someone and they leave this world, we very naturally, very humanly want to hold on to a piece of them. It could be their favorite recipe, a letter in their very handwriting, or wearing one of their favorite clothing items. We, as both body and soul beings, cannot help but yearn to hang on to our loved ones in some way. It's not so weird after all, but very human and very spiritual at the same time. Or, as Maria and I noted, very incarnational. One important note. Maria said she was asked to write the book about Father Rother so that his cult would continue. I wanted to stop there to have her explain what cult means in that instance, but I didn't want to interrupt her train of thought. But for those wondering, in Catholic theology, the term cult refers to a specific form of worship or devotion, particularly toward saints, rather than the negative connotation often associated with the word. So the cult of Mary, for example, simply means the devotion and liturgical practices centered around the Virgin Mary within the church. Hopefully that clears up any questions on that point. Finally, I loved what Maria said about God's provisions. His dreams are always so much bigger. Do you believe this? If not, would you consider it as applied to your own life? How have God's dreams proven themselves so much bigger for your life than you had dreamed on your own? It's something to ponder as we move further into this Lenten season and advance toward the resurrection. Well, in a couple of weeks, we'll ask a delicate question about a tough topic that affects far too many. Can sexual trauma be healed? Until then, don't lose sight of the light.